Good morning, everybody. Lots of fun stuff coming up today on GoJo and Golic. We have a whole slate of amazing guests that will be coming your way. Jaylon Jones, we're going to talk about his 2-interception day, and guess what? That was his first and second career interceptions. Good for him. Plus, Justin Pugh, going to join us. We'll talk about a lot of stuff with him, and it's a Wilder Tuesday. Charlotte Wilder will be joining us. Plus, we got to talk about Jayden Daniels. He looked nearly flawless in the Commanders' win over the Bills. All that and more coming your way on GoJo and Golic.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Jesse Cofield holding it down. We got a great show for everybody. As always, download, subscribe, rate, and review the thing. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the DraftKings Network. Jesse mentioned all the great guests that we got coming up here today. Active NFL players, current NFL players, and, of course, our good buddy Charlotte Wilder to recap all of the drama in the NFL. And, Dad, last night we got in a doubleheader season. I know a lot of people are mixed on this, the idea of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Where are you at on this? You and Greeny used to call one of these games back in the day, did you not?
Yeah, we did it a couple times. We called the second game. That was when they put it, though, after the first game. They started the first game at 7 and the second game at 10, and it was usually a West Coast game that we did. But listen, I mean, we're kind of a red zone nation, aren't we? Where you see double boxes, you go from game to game. We're kind of used to going from game to game. So this is just, one previous channel button. It's just going back and forth. It's kind of like a manual red zone channel that you have to go back and forth to. But I have no problem with it. I'm glad that, like I said, when Greeny and I did it, they started the second game after the first game. There's no way I'd be up for that. No way I would be able to stay awake for that. So I'm kind of glad they start at 7 and then 8:15 Eastern. So the second one actually starts at the normal time a Monday nighter would start, and the first one starts earlier, at 7 something, after, go through all the machinations before kickoff. So I have no problem with it at all.
I don't either. And last night made it very easy on us to enjoy both of these games separately because that Buffalo-Jacksonville game, which we'll get to, was over in about a quarter and a half. And so it gave us the full chance to go and explore the space around the matchup of former LSU Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks as the Washington Commanders, led by their more recent Heisman winning quarterback, JAYDEN Daniels, beat the Cincinnati Bengals, led by Joe Burrow, 38-33. Dad, it was the first game since at least 1940 where neither team punted the ball or had a turnover, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. So this was all gas, no breaks the entire day. And in a game where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase connected multiple times on deep touchdowns, Joe Burrow throws for over 300 yards. He still is in second place to the performance for the ages that we saw from JAYDEN Daniels, who set an NFL rookie record for single-game completion percentage at 91.3% and became the first player in NFL history with at least 90% completion percentage, 250 pass yards, 2 pass TDs, and a rush touchdown in run games. So, Dad, are we ready to crown him now? Is this the offensive rookie of the year and we can all close up shop?
Well, I mean, I don't know. One of the two of us called for him to be the offensive rookie of the year, and I believe it was moi. Yeah, that's right. I called for it. And no, obviously we cannot go ahead and crown him just yet. But I mean, he showed incredible ability, and not really, because he rushed for over 1,000 yards his Heisman year at LSU. And he ran the ball. He ran it 12 times for 37 yards. He would get short first downs. He was efficient with his legs, but he wasn't dangerous with his legs. And he's going to be, make no mistake, he is going to be dangerous with his legs, but he didn't need to when he was completing 21 to 23 in the passing range, couldn't complete 91% of his passes. He was incredible. But this was a former defensive player's worst nightmare, though. This was a shootout. 38-33, defenses couldn't stop anybody. This was, this was a great one to watch for a fan.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, I say on one side, we expected that because the Washington Commanders defense, we knew probably wasn't going to be very good going into this season. Yeah. But the Bengals on the other side, that's probably the biggest takeaway coming off tonight, because I don't know if anyone's ready to upgrade Washington's expectations in their head to the point where they think they challenge for the division or a real playoff team. But on the other side for this Bengals team, Dad, that we excuse away the first 2 weeks of the season because it's Joe Burrow and company, that defense that led by Lou Anarumo seems to be a real problem for them right now.
Oh, it was a problem last year. It's a problem this year. I mean, you have to win shootouts, and in this case, they lost a shootout. But that's the position you're put in because of your defense. Washington's defense as well. And you're right. We tend to lean towards Cincy because we saw the sample size of their first 2 games in the Zach Taylor era being bad, but them still, when Joe Burrow was healthy, make the playoffs and in one case make the Super Bowl. But this is now 0-3. It's not good, and it's on the defense. The offense still, without T. Higgins was back, had 3 catches, so they had their full allotment of receivers. So and it showed what this offense could do, putting up 33 points. So you don't worry too much about the offense as long as Joe Burrow's out there. But the defense is definitely going to be an issue. And again, for Washington, they've gone 14 now straight drives scoring, going back to the Giants game, which they won 21-18, 14 straight drives with a score. So led by a rookie quarterback, which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, if this was a tough one and a good reminder that, hey, when you go out there and talk your stuff, it's a live by the sword, die by the sword business. And Cam Taylor-Britt, fresh off a week where as one of the defensive backs for the Cincinnati Bengals, he went out there, he talked his stuff about Xavier Worthy and that Kansas City Chiefs offense, and he backed it up for a team that they know well. And Dad, styles make fights. NFL is a matchup business more than it is anything else because of the level of talent that every team possesses out there. Even the worst teams in the league, only marginally less talented overall than some of the best, and still a lot of it is how you match up with the other team. Cam Taylor-Britt and this Bengals defense, very used to defending the Kansas City Chiefs right now. The Kansas City Chiefs offense, markedly less explosive right now, less continuity right now. Comes out and says that, fine. Comes out this week and talks about, hey, this is a nice college offense you have. Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator. They decide to go deep over their head a bunch in this game, Dad. Jayden Daniels, 6 of 8 on passes over 10 air yards, 2 of 4 for 82 yards on deep passes over 20 yards with a 135.4 passer rating on those throws. He was great uncorking the ball. We saw down towards the end that throw that he had to, and God love him, Terry McLaurin, who has waited for this. If anyone deserves what's come for this Washington Commander squad, it's Terry McLaurin that was wandering around there in the desert.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. He'd been through a few quarterbacks and waiting for an efficient quarterback. And into his young career, Jayden Daniels is certainly showing that. And that not his long pass, not the 55-yard reception, which was, I think, I don't think Jayden Daniels had an air ball go over 50 yards in college and got his first one in the NFL. But it was the 27-yarder to McLaurin that really kind of sealed the deal. There was, 2:10 left in the game. They're on Cincinnati's 27-yard line, and Cincinnati brings the blitz, and they got a free blitzer right into the face of Jayden Daniels. He sees the blitz, he stands in there, and he throws it. He throws an absolute dime down the sideline to McLaurin, who does a great job of keeping his feet. And just think of the ramifications if that play isn't made. So it's 3rd and 7, 27-yard line. Cincinnati, more than likely, they incomplete that pass. They kick a field goal, and they go up 34-28. That's still one score down, right? Or 34-26 it would have been. One score would have been a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, which, of course, Cincinnati did score, but it would have kept the game a one-score game had that not been a touchdown and had been a field goal instead. So Jayden Daniels, that's a test, a true test of a young quarterback kind of learning and just standing in there and knowing he's going to get smoked because it's coming right at him, knowing he's going to get smoked and laying up just a dime to McLaurin.
I think the Commanders had 10 players on the field at that point, too. They were a little disjointed. They were coming up against the play clock. There was a lot of pressure in that moment, and Jayden Daniels turned that, and the old phrase, pressure breaks pipes or it makes diamonds, he made diamonds out of that one and did an absolute seed to Terry McLaurin there for a great play. And so the offense, Dad, for them, it had been building through the first couple weeks, and it's still not perfect, right? There's some areas where you see Jayden Daniels wasn't as comfortable cutting it loose before he saw it, some of that anticipatory stuff. That's the hallmark of more developed passers. But I think you've seen now this offense start to develop that deep part of the game where it's not just a bunch of stuff at or around the line of scrimmage that we'd all been hypercritical of Cliff Kingsbury for. Jayden Daniels showing that other element of this offense where, he didn't have a pass over 50 air yards at LSU, but they aired that thing out. I mean, Malik Neighbors and the receiving core that he had there, Brian Thomas and company, those dudes could go deep with the best of them. And Jayden Daniels, as an athlete, you did see plenty of plays where, he accounts for the extra blitzer by being as athletic as anyone on the field. He might not be Lamar Jackson in terms of his ability to go out there and do it that way. He's certainly stature-wise not who we'll talk about from the earlier game, and Josh Allen being as big as imposing as he is. But Jayden is athletic enough to make one miss in the box and all of a sudden give you better on the back half of that play. So combine that with the deep passing attack that's now on tape for people to reckon with. And Dad, this is a team that's going to be at the very least a really tough out in the NFC East for everyone involved. Again, I don't think they'll win the thing, but if you're Dallas right now, giving it up on the ground the way that they do, the way that Cincinnati did, you better be worried because when you look at this backfield, they're getting production out of everyone here. Brian Robinson's been great. Austin Eckler will give you production in a bunch of different ways. Jayden Daniels is a run threat too. It wasn't prolific last night by any means, but you've got to worry about a little bit of everything right now with those guys there. And for Cincinnati, Dad, how dire is this? Like, are you ready to downgrade them from contender status right now? What do you need to see from Cincinnati here to believe in this outfit again as we go forward for a team that was expected to be returning to the playoffs?
Need the defense to step up. I mean, it's tough to win without at least a good defense, if not a great defense. It's tough to win without a good defense. That means you have to rely on going score for score. And while Cincinnati has that ability, you see they fell short in this game. More field goals than touchdowns to Washington's more touchdowns than field goals. They have the Panthers coming up next, and then they have the Ravens So they have a game against the newly revitalized Panthers with the redheaded Rocket throwing the ball and Andy Dalton. So they're certainly not a pushover anymore, scoring the amount of points they did. In Cincinnati, not playing defense very well, and then you take on the Ravens. I'm cautiously optimistic, cautiously optimistic, just because of the firepower of that offense.
Let me tell you this: if they get beat by Andy Dalton's Carolina Panthers next week, stick a fork in them. That team's cooked. So the season comes down to next week. 0-4 would be, and I know after last year, hey, the Bills might have brushed us all back off our fastball because of what they were able to do in the back half of last season. I just don't know if that's going to live here, even if all of the guys in the middle of that D-line, some of their young guys step up and get healthy. Even with that, I don't know, man. Next week is the big test for me. For Washington, I may have to begrudgingly admit that Jayden Daniels is in pretty good position if he keeps anything close to this up, because it won't be this every game. If he keeps anything close to this up, getting Offensive Rookie of the Year away from a quarterback doing these things, even if I believe Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. are great, it's just so hard to do because the guy holds the pen on every play.
The good and bad. The bad being they lost Austin Eckler to a second-half concussion, so we'll have to see how he comes back. And the good, there were 5 different players that scored touchdowns, including Jayden Daniels, Mike, first touchdown pass to an offensive lineman, Trent Scott. How about that?
Yeah.
A thick 6 for his first NFL touchdown pass.
Where were you when we made history and got the big fella in the books along with it? Going to be the answer to a phenomenal trivia question. Crushed it. Preparation met opportunity and large excellence on display for Monday Night Football. Let's get to the first game that we saw briefly, Jesse. Buffalo absolutely railroading a Jaguars team that now is 0 for its last 8.
Emerson, look away. And it all started during the week in practice and what Josh Allen saw during that preparation time.
Feels good, I'll tell you that. Again, I think this could have easily been a game where we had 10 days off and let up on the gas. Didn't sense that from our guys. A lot of urgency throughout the week. Practiced really hard, had a really good game plan. I thought Joe called a great game today. We went out there and executed, but again, that we didn't win it today. We won it, in the last 10 days. And good thing about that is we had 10 days off, and the bad thing about it is now we got a short week, and we're going into a really hostile environment, with the Ravens and two-time MVP Lamar. So we're gonna have to turn this real quick and start focusing on them ASAP.
On to the next one for Josh Allen and the Bills, but we got to talk about Josh Allen's 4 passing touchdown game. He looked elite. He is elite.
Yeah, he's elite, Dad. I mean, Josh Allen, the current odds-on favorite at DraftKings Sportsbook for the MVP. Understandably, he's played like it so far this season as they have steamrolled almost everyone in their path. It took a little bit to get going against the Cardinals, and then they pulled away in the second half. They plucked the wings off the Miami Dolphins even before the Tua Tagovailoa injury. And now a Jaguars team searching for its identity found no safe harbor. Dad, this Bills team right now looks like a team fully capable of winning the Super Bowl. Josh Allen getting over that MVP hump. They are built to the right stuff. We've talked about the foundation for this team along both lines of scrimmage up front. Spencer Brown, their right tackle, hasn't allowed a single pressure through 3 games this season. They've been sensational, and Josh Allen has been every bit of that quarterback, making life easier for a new group of receivers that we expected.
The amount of changes that they made in the offseason, tinkering with that team. I know Stephon Diggs was the headliner there, but they changed a lot of pieces. And, man, so I thought maybe they would be a little stagnant, but boy, oh, boy, they look – I mean, Josh Allen's first half stats were game stats. He was 22 of 28 for 247, hit 9 different receivers in the first half alone. Buffalo scored a touchdown on each of their first 5 possessions in the first half alone. I mean, it was amazing what he did. By the way, Josh Allen now has 230 total touchdowns, 1 short of what Pat Mahomes had after Pat's first 7 seasons. So, I mean, the only thing that Josh doesn't have is holding the Lombardi Trophy like Pat has done 3 times. So that we've been talking about, that's what's missing, and that's what's been missing for Buffalo, coming up short in my era with Jim Kelly led Buffalo Bills, 4 straight Super Bowls and 4 losses. So They just haven't been able to get over the hump. And Josh Allen led in passing and rushing. That was his 29th time. He's 4th all time. Cam Newton's number 1 at 40. Number 2, he's going to deal with a guy who's in his era. Lamar Jackson has 39.
Yeah.
And then Randall Cunningham is 3rd, and then Josh has 29. So Josh has been doing it. And for Jacksonville, 0-3. Last time they were 0-3, 2021, Urban Meyer was the head coach. That is not good.
Yeah, no, saw a lot of people starting to, no pun intended for the Buffalo side of things, but circle the wagons around that Jacksonville Jaguars team and what the future for Doug Peterson and company might look like down there. Because it's ugly right now, Dad. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, who they signed to a rich contract extension this year, seems caught in that space of, hey, he's good enough to where you don't want to let him walk out of the door. There's not many players with his physical capabilities around there. But that roster kind of an interesting spot. The defense really struggling to get anything done last night. And overall, they're just not getting any traction with the quarterback. Let's put it this way, Dad. He might be in that Dak Prescott range where we've waved goodbye to the notion that he's a quarterback that's going to elevate you beyond the sum of your parts. But right now, the parts overall just not adding up in any real way for Jacksonville.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic, where it's time for DraftKings crowning moments. How about a live bet with Colorado down late, cashing for over $11K? That is a massive sweat on the Hail Mary and OT. An insane win for that bettor. I didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. Colorado feeling real good after this one. Where were you when this happened? Like, what was going through your mind when you guys saw this?
Oh,
yeah, insane. I think the win probability was like well up over 97% at that point in the game. And to see the last second Hail Mary and then the way they came in and just steamrolled through overtime. I was sitting dad at a bar at the Denver airport after our game that I had called at Colorado State that weekend with Jared Greenberg from TNT, and just could not believe what we had seen in terms of that comeback and what Baylor had let slip away throughout that game.
Oh, that was just, I mean, listen, you love seeing a Hail Mary. You quite honestly, you rarely see it work, and you saw it work in this one. And it worked to Colorado's favor, to which Dion, afterwards said, "Do you believe now?" Didn't he say those words last year as well? Do you believe? I mean,
I think that, that's branding, man. You got to say the same stuff over and over so it sinks in with people.
Yeah, so you put it on a shirt then, or on a coffee cup. Do you believe? But what an incredible moment that was.
It was. Shedeur Sanders finishes that game 25 of 41 for 341 yards and 2 touchdowns. A game where, again, like a lot of other times, the best play is Shedeur somehow evade sacks and be able to throw the ball downfield. Travis Hunter, 7 receptions for 130 yards in this game. We talked about it with Marty yesterday, Dad. He's been so undeniably good. And by the way, now Colorado's sitting here at 3-1, like beating a Baylor team that during that game we thought they were going to have no business beating. Baylor gets out to a lead early on. Dave Aranda, by the way, in a very uncomfortable position growing there in Baylor. But for Colorado, 3-1 now, winning just enough. I think, again, we've talked about bowl eligibility should have been the real mark for this season. If you get bowl eligible in year 2 for Colorado, that's a real big win. And if Travis Hunter, who last year, remember, got hurt in the Colorado State game, and that was sort of what derailed the hype train, if he keeps doing this stuff at a level we haven't seen, that's a Heisman contender. That's a guy that can get himself invited to New York. I said it week 1, and I still believe it now.
Yeah, he definitely is on the road to getting invited to New York, and I'd love to see a non-quarterback win it. They play UCF next, which is 3-0, and then they have a couple of toughies in a row. They play Kansas State and Arizona. So 2 teams we've talked about near the top of the Big 12 with Utah, with Oklahoma State. It was Kansas State, it was Arizona. Those are kind of the 4 bantied about as far as winning the conference. So, again, an undefeated UCF team, and then Kansas State and Arizona. So, some tough tests coming up.
No doubt about it. So, big win for Colorado, Jesse, as we crown that. And good for that guy, too. Great job hitting the bull dance. Sped it up a little bit more than you saw in Happy Gilmore, but he was feeling the flow, and the dude was working it.
I can imagine. All right, guys, Crowning Moments is presented by DraftKings. Submit your winning bets for a chance to be featured. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Now let's talk Tennessee. Okay, guys, maybe a crown in their future. Josh Heupel returned to Norman, where he won a national championship, and here he is in the locker room after he led Tennessee to a win.
Winning on the road's tough. Winning on the road against a good football team's tough. They're good. Okay? We're going to continue to face better as we go. Played well tonight. Anybody think we played our best tonight? No. Good teams keep getting better. Keep getting better. I'm proud of the investment, the competitive composure, resetting to the next play, continuing to compete. Man, it's just us being us, all right? And let's just keep making us a better version every single day. You guys got me?
Yes, sir.
All right. This thing, coming back to normal, was never about me. It was not. But I appreciate you all having a little extra for me.
It was about him a little bit. Getting his crowning moment early in the season here. Guys, Vols are a team to be reckoned with, don't you think?
That was the coolest thing I saw all weekend, Jesse, because it wasn't just he won a national championship there. Josh Heupel's entire football life had been there for so long. He went back as a graduate assistant. He did 1 year at Arizona after that, and then came back and started his run as the quarterback's coach and then offensive coordinator from 2006 until 2014, and then Bob Stoops had to fire him. He got fired from the place that had been his young adult football upbringing and got told no there in a way I can't fathom how much that stings as someone that knows what it's like to love the place for the helmet that you once wore more than anything in the world. And for him to have given the ultimate gift to them in that national championship and to then be told, hey, pack your stuff, you got to go, to come back there and be in the visiting locker room for the first time in his life had to be a surreal experience. And Dad, you heard him. He started off with all the coaching cliches, and then we get the thing that's so rare. Like, he let us in for that moment, and he didn't even plan on it. He was trying to make the point that it wasn't about him, but all of that pregnant pause there and the tears that welled up in his eyes told you everything that he was never going to say out loud in front of a microphone. I got chills watching that.
Yeah, you're right. He was never going to say that out loud. He was always going to make it about the kids, and he had that one moment where it just kind of choked him up, and that's the emotion of the game. That's what players and especially coaches put so much time and effort in to try and get back. And listen, Tennessee, while this. Now they had three more easy games, obviously, in the previous games. This was their toughest games, their toughest game. The offense wasn't as devastating as when they played the smaller schools, but they're still getting it done. They play Georgia, they play Alabama, they play them both this year, and so they're going to get tested with that because we're all wondering, what is this offense going to do? This offense has been more of a running offense because they blew out the first three teams. They've run the ball more than they've passed it. Nico Iamaleava, he's not putting up the most unbelievable stats, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completing 69% of his passes. Has, I think, a little under 900 yards, but they didn't have to throw a lot. They haven't had to lean on that arm just yet, like I think they will once they start going through the SEC.
They're a pretty complete football team. We talked with Marty yesterday about the defense and the teeth over there. They're built well along the lines of scrimmage on offense as well. They got a couple tight ends they can trot out there. I'll be interested to see when it comes to these true spread hurry-up offenses where you see the receivers all the way out towards the sideline and they're using the full width of the field. The way to stop this has always been you've got to be able to, A, get it done with fewer guys in the box, have a couple of war daddies up front, put 5 or 6 in there, and have them handle business. And then I think you've got to change up a lot of the looks. You've got to get a quarterback who's in an offense that's designed to give him easy reads and put you in conflict. You've got to put him on his heels. And Oklahoma and Brent Venables did all of the right things. I thought they were more physical than Tennessee at the line of scrimmage for a lot of that game. I thought they threw a lot of looks at Nico early on in that game that got him questioning some of his decisions. They muddied the picture a little bit on what are supposed to be clear reads. And so you look at the rest of the schedule, Dad, it's really 3 teams in my mind. It's really a 3-game season between Alabama, where it's, hey, new defensive system, not quite what Saban was running there, but still high-end stuff on a very good team offensively. Kentucky, that is blue chip stock on defense with what they're going to do and their ability to have big guys in the box that can handle themselves. And then obviously Georgia in November, who is at the mountaintop for all of that stuff, is built of the exact right things to stop an offense like this, unless you get a quarterback like Nico, who's supposed to be this NFL skill set running an offense that allows you to get some extra in there that goes even beyond what that great scheme can afford you. So that's what you've got to look forward to. Tennessee right now, you went out on the road against a big-time opponent and proved it. You were absolutely a top 10, top 5 team, but we talked with Marty yesterday, having them get any sort of like number 1 votes, little rich for my blood. I don't think they're as good at Texas. I don't think they're as good at a healthy Georgia right now, but that's a damn good football team that they've got in Knoxville, and they should be singing Rocky Top awfully loud.
Yeah, and the thing about it is they'll be able to prove it, right? I mean, I would imagine if Alabama and Georgia play this week, so one of those two is probably going to drop down. Maybe more Alabama would drop down below Tennessee if Tennessee were to. Oh, Tennessee has a bye this week, but that's the test they have. They have Alabama, as you mentioned, Alabama and Kentucky. They do have a week in between there, another bye. In between Alabama and Kentucky before they get to Georgia in November. So I agree. No first place votes for me. They're still not, I think, in that upper top 2, top 3 area, but they're going to get every chance in the world to prove it.
Yeah, there's a clear upper crust in the sport right now, right? When you look at Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama in that top 4, everyone kind of looks at that and goes, all right, this makes sense. Those are teams that we feel like are shoo-ins to be in this conversation about the national title. And then Tennessee, Ole Miss, Miami, and Oregon. Oregon because they limped out of the gate with a roster that we trusted a lot more than maybe we should have right off the bat, but has steadied some things there. Miami getting Cam Ward and looking like they got exactly what they paid for out of him. And then Ole Miss and Tennessee, two teams that offensively kind of had the same labels where, hey, because they want to spread it out, go hurry up, they don't necessarily get the credit they deserve for being the way both of these teams are, which is built off more competent play in the trenches than would normally be associated. And that was what Tennessee's done for a while, but what Ole Miss's charge was this offseason. So going to be fascinated to watch what happens as that group continues to sort itself out, like you said, now that we're getting into some of the big conference games.
Yeah, everybody playing one another, save for Miami has the easiest path, right, to the top four.
Yes,
to winning their conference
By
and being in the top four. Without question, they have the easiest path.
They do. So the path laid out in front of them, no doubt. Jesse, the path for the newly reformed Pac-12 and the Mountain West left in its wake, getting weirder and weirder by the day. Yesterday was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, the Pac-12 is not dead yet, okay? They put out multiple offers, right, to several schools. Utah State reportedly going to join Boise State, Fresno, Colorado State, and San Diego State in the Pac-12. Memphis, Tulane, USF, and UTSA put out a statement saying that they're committed to the AAC. So a lot of moving pieces going on with that. UNLV allegedly may be reconsidering the offer after initially sticking with the Mountain West. So this just keeps getting messier and messier, and who knows how this will shake out at the end.
If you're playing the game at home, 8 is the magic number. You've got to have 8 teams in your conference to have all the things that go along with being a member of FBS football and having the access that you want to the postseason and everything else here. And right now, the newly formed Pac-12 and the Mountain West both sitting at 7 current members, which puts them in a tough place because, Dad, going into this day, there was a thought that a lot of these schools, when you saw the AAC schools that rebuffed the Pac-12 overtures, and then all of a sudden you get this renewal of their commitment to the conference, there was a thought a lot of that was going to happen for the remaining Mountain West teams. And then when Utah State defects and all of a sudden affects the numbers, now you're making everybody a little bit nervous because with so all 4 teams that had agreed to leave the Mountain West, there's a massive buyout that comes from that. There's money on the table, and the Mountain West was going to use that money and distribute it to the remaining teams to beef up the war chest a little bit, to say, hey, listen, we got money to give you now. You don't need to jump over for a Pac-12 who still doesn't really have a television rights thing set up and can't really give you concrete numbers there. Now, all of a sudden, after Utah State got nervous and jumped, Dad, it seems like everything's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Pac-12 trying to grow to 8, and the Mountain West going to have to go poach to get to 8. They were well above 8 and lost their teams and went down below 8, again, the NCAA minimum for a conference. So they're going to have to look around and try and get a team or two. And I'm sure they'd like more than 8. I'm sure the Pac-12 would like more than 8. I'm sure they would like, 10 teams, 12 teams. So the movement hasn't stopped. While the biggest moves, obviously, were Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC, all the Pac-12 teams that went to the Big Ten, and the couple that went to the ACC. I again thought the Pac-12 would just go away, and the 2 teams, Oregon State and Washington State, would be absorbed into the Mountain West. But turns out they're gonna keep their Power 5 status, but it's gonna lead to a lot more shifting going on.
Yeah, like the teams from the American rebuffing those overtures, that made sense to me, right? You're in a conference right now that has been one of the better in the group of 5 for a while. Geographically, in a world where modern college football doesn't make a ton of sense, that actually still makes a decent amount of sense for those teams. And yes, the Pac-12's future is a bit uncertain. Even as they say, hey, the demise was prematurely sold, there's still a lot of uncertainty about that brand going forward. So what they do, I know there was some would they, won't they about Gonzaga from the basketball side and all these things they have to get weighed. We'll put a pin in that and come back to it another day. Coming up next, though, let's look at another one of the marquee performances from the NFL this weekend here on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and as we talk about winners from the weekend, usually early in the week around this show, maybe no bigger winner than our next guest here. Colts second-year quarterback Jaylon Jones, kind enough to join us now, fresh off his first and second career interceptions in the same game. So, Jaylon, good morning, man. How you feeling after a big one this weekend?
Oh man, good morning. I'm feeling good, man. Can't lie, I'm feeling good.
How about those two interceptions? One had to feel good, but then the second one, pretty much making the day, huh?
Yeah, most definitely. Just trying to put my team in position to win. That's all.
When it comes to interceptions, are always an interesting, tricky thing discussing for defensive backs because you played a bunch last year. Obviously, it's a hard thing to do to get your hands on the football. So is there a frustration that comes with waiting it or an anxiety about trying to get that first one, especially at this level? Is it something that you had talked about or consciously thought about?
Almost definitely. I feel like as a defensive back, I just feel like playing defense in general. Anytime you're a pass defender, it's a lot of preparation that goes into the week to try to get your hands on the ball. So definitely, when it pays off, it's one of the best feelings in the world.
So you guys get your first win of the season over the Bears. You lose your first two games, but do you take any comfort in knowing those were one-score games, that they were close games?
I would say, the first 2 weeks didn't go how we liked, but definitely we knew, as a team, that it was just the little things, man. Just executing, being disciplined, just really, doing your job. So breaking down the film, man. I think going into last week and going forward, just staying together, keeping it a brotherhood, man, and that's what it really comes down to, to get a win on Sunday.
The opportunity you guys had this weekend against a rookie quarterback and a team in Chicago that a lot of people were really high on coming into this season. When you guys look at Caleb Williams right now, who's a great prospect and a great young player, though, what do you see on tape and what did you see on the field going up against him this weekend?
Definitely a special player. Very, very good with the ball in his hands in terms of, just arm talent. And definitely, we knew we would have to plaster this week. Stay with receivers. He likes to extend plays, and that's one of the gifts to his game. So we knew it was going to be a dogfight. Definitely stepping into Sunday.
Both your interceptions were kind of the sideline toe tappers. You have a little bit of wide receiver in your background. How much did that play a part in it?
Definitely played a heavy part with getting my feet down. Definitely, just having the awareness, but just being in the right position, I can't thank my vets and my coaches anymore, man. Just helping me out throughout the week, man, and putting me in the best situation to make those plays for the team.
Who would you say is the most vocal leader on that defense? I know you had said you and Zaire Franklin had some conversation. Here's the guy that you've leaned on through your first now season and change in the NFL.
I'm about to say, man, I've been leaning on everybody, but definitely, guys like DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore, Julian Blackman, just the leaders on the defense, man. Just keeping it tight, man, keeping it a brotherhood and staying together because, like I said, the first 2 weeks wasn't what we wanted, but, it's a long season, just coming together and getting a win. We seen it for what it could be, so definitely just staying together, man.
You have the Steelers coming up this week. Now, obviously, early in the week, not a lot of game prep just yet, but what are you looking forward to about taking on an undefeated Pittsburgh team?
Definitely a talented team. Has a quarterback that's very talented and like I said, likes to extend plays with his feet. Definitely just come down to execution, discipline. Everybody just doing their job. We have a good team coming into Indianapolis on Sunday, and definitely, like I said, that's just what it comes down to, man.
What about your quarterback? You and Anthony Richardson came into the NFL at the same time together. Obviously, last year for him cut short early on. How impressed have you been by the way he's navigated the early portion of this season?
And very impressed. Just staying poised in the moment. Definitely somebody that's a super talented man, and he's the guy for the job. And like I said, me and AR always, talk to each other. I ask him stuff like, as a quarterback, what are you seeing? He asked me as a DB, what am I seeing? So just helping each other, on different sides of the ball, man, so we could both put our team in the best situation to get a win.
Talk about and Anthony Richards comes in as a first-round pick. You come in as a seventh-round pick, a late-round pick, maybe obviously not the expectations of a first-round pick. Couple of early injuries, and before you know it, you're a starter. So talk about that road of being a seventh-round pick, coming in as a seventh-round rookie to eventually being the starter.
Oh man, just definitely having the next man up mentality. They kept telling me all through training camp, my first training camp, they was like, dude, like you're gonna play at some point. You know what I'm saying? It's a long season. You never know what can happen. Just always got to be ready. So I was prepared, like I was gonna play on Sundays. And when the moment came, I just took advantage. That's really all.
Mentioned, you come in at the same time as Anthony Richardson. You also come in at the same time as your head coach, Shane Steichen, who comes over after a great run that he had with the Eagles, making it to that Super Bowl game here. I know he's the only NFL head coach that you've been around right now, but what would you say is the thing that stood out to you so far about what he brings as the leader of your guys' football team?
Oh, man, I'm about to say passionate. I feel like that's the biggest word, very passionate. He's a coach that you definitely want to play behind of. I feel like anytime he comes, in the locker room, on the practice field, wherever we at, and, he just talking to us, man, you can tell all the guys are bought in. We rally behind him. And so definitely he's a guy that you want to play with.
How about a Gus Bradley defense? What do you like most about that defense?
Oh, man, I say Coach Gus, just super smart, man. I'm about to say, just he's helped me tremendously. Just putting me in positions, to make the plays, and I learn something new every day with him. I feel like so. I definitely love playing in his defense.
We mentioned the quarterback that you've played against in practice some, than Anthony Richardson. You guys also go up against a receiver room that had an opportunity this year to take a real step forward. Michael Pittman Jr. was the guy most people looked at as the number one in your room. As you guys are going through the offseason and going through camp, and you've been around in the last couple of years, did you see this kind of start from Alec Pierce coming to this season? 9 receptions for 225 yards, leading the team right now overwhelmingly. Did you guys see this coming for him?
Most definitely. All last year, when the offense on the field, defense, we're watching. And, man, I would just be like, dude, like, I don't know, like AP one-on-one, I like AP every time. So I was about to say, just going to get some in practice, man, us battling out, iron sharp as iron, man. I'm about to say I knew AP was a special player, a very good receiver. And I feel like the best thing about him, man, is just not only his speed, but people don't understand, like, his catch radius, man, is out of this world. Like, he could track the ball down like I never seen before.
So as far as you, as we mentioned, you get your first 2 interceptions. I know as a team, the team goal is to win the division, make the playoffs, make a run in the playoffs every year. How about you as an individual? Do you have individual goals like number of interceptions or things like that?
Oh, man, I really wasn't worried about anything like that. Definitely, I was just telling myself, if we winning, everybody eats, man. So I feel like when the team is playing good, that's when good things happen. And definitely, like I said, we just came together and gonna keep this thing rolling. So.
There's no doubt you guys have come together, got that first win, and now that the ball's gone through the basket there, I have no doubt there's a lot more wins and certainly a lot more opportunities for you to get your hands on the ball sooner than later after notching interceptions, career 1 and 2 in the body of the same game. Jaylon, we appreciate all the time this morning, man. Congratulations on a hell of a weekend. Best of luck, and we know you got plenty more in the tank coming up here soon.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Thanks, man.
Awesome stuff there. Again, Jaylon Jones getting the job done this weekend, Dad. And for them, listen, we know offensively for that Colts team, it had been about Anthony Richardson and his development for a lot of this season. But defensively, we knew some of the names that he mentioned there, up front, down the spine, we always talk about for that defense. But Kenny Moore in that secondary, what Zaire Franklin has meant to that team. DeForest Buckner and the 4 seasons up front. Latu getting loose this weekend and getting a sack when he got matched up against the tight end in pass protection, which, man, Cole Kmet had a great day in a lot of ways. didn't have a lot of fun on that rep. That Gus Bradley-led defense was a huge part of the reason why I think some people thought they could be a team that makes a run this season while Anthony Richardson has some time to go through the growing pains.
Yeah, it's a team that gives up a lot of yards, but they're about the middle of the pack giving up points. Last two games, one a loss to the Packers. They only gave up 16 to the Packers, only gave up 16 to the Bears. They did give up 29 to the Texans, but we know Houston can score, albeit not last week so much. So the defense, from a scoring standpoint, they're kind of a bend but don't break. It's usually been a bend but don't break defense. Give up the yards, but don't give up a ton of points. And it showed against the Bears. Now a good test against an undefeated Steelers team that we honestly didn't think was going to be undefeated at this point. And they're leading their division.
No, it's a big challenge from a team that's incredibly well coached in Mike Tomlin's outfit, and a quarterback and a coordinator who found out that the middle of the field existed. And so now we feel like there's a new world of limitless possibility there.
And, we wanted to kind of rib him. He went to Texas A&M, and we wanted to kind of rib him about Notre Dame beating Texas A&M week 1. But after Notre Dame lost in week 2, it just kind of loses its steam, doesn't it? It didn't feel right to bring it up.
Yeah, no, we don't have anything to beat our chest about at this point right now. That was a little too dicey at home against Miami of Ohio at the beginning of that game, even for my liking. So I'm gonna sit the next few plays out. Coach Freeman and company got a bunch of good wins going on now, but I am not going to be sticking my neck out too far now, talking that talk after week 1, since we had to get some things in our house in order. We appear to have those things in order now. Dad, the other interesting part about this matchup, though, this last weekend with the Colts and the Bears was a lot of similarities between these two teams, right? Two incredibly talented quarterbacks. Now, one accomplished much more in college, and Caleb Williams won a Heisman Trophy, was a part of a lot more football in general, just played more football than Anthony Richardson, but coming in with the expectation of changing teams that had put a bunch of weapons around you and defensively had what they felt like was a bit of a backstop there. And through the first portion of this season, the Bears defense, by and large, has lived up to that billing. It's just offensively, it really seems like, and myself included on this, like I should have been louder about this and more aware of this in the lead up, that the Bears offensive line just right now has not been in a position to go out and protect Caleb Williams in the ways that he needs to allow this offense to get into that rhythm. We know Caleb can buy time and try and make things happen, and that was always going to be harder at the NFL level with the way windows close and how powerful, potent defenders are. And so needing that offensive line to be dialed in to get him in a better habit of getting the ball out quicker just hasn't materialized yet.
Well, I mean, listen, and we saw in college him making plays on the run. And it's just harder to do in the NFL. He's been sacked 13 times, so at times he's just not getting out of the sack. But we've seen him even make a couple of plays outside the pocket in the NFL, but he's had to run way more than he would like to. So we talk about Ryan Poles and the GM and the talent that they put around him. It was more talent from the running back and wide receiver position. They had Cole Kmet at tight end, but they added Everett to it as well. But the O-line still something that's a work in progress to try and protect Caleb, because in doing the game I did for them last week against Houston, boy, he just absolutely took a beating and took 4 more sacks in this game. So he is definitely a quarterback on the run.
And you saw him wearing that frustration after the Houston game, too. Like, I know a lot of people made a big to-do about the moment between him and C.J. Stroud at the middle of the field, where C.J. Stroud said after, I wasn't trying to big bro him. I could just see he was frustrated, and I knew what he had been going through and wanted to tell him to keep it moving. But you could tell Caleb Williams is not a guy that hides the frustration of being sacked over and over again like that. And I guess that's the only thing I worry about, Dad, is the effect on a quarterback's psyche if you get hit that often. We see it every year happen to a player. It broke Bryce Young last year. And so that's going to be the real charge for this offense, for Shane Walden and company, is, all right, hey, what's your counterpunch? What are you going to do to make sure that you protect the main asset on this team?
Yeah, and both these quarterbacks, Caleb has 4 interceptions, Richardson has 6 interceptions, so still turning the ball over is a problem.
Yeah, that Bears staff, seats warming up, I think, around there for the offensive staff, but we know for Matt Eberflus and company, it was already uncomfortable going into this season.
Some surprise wins and some surprise losses in week 3 in the NFL. So let's take a look at conference championship odds and how they've shifted. So Vikings, Seahawks, Steelers, all 3-0. Didn't see that one coming. All of their odds have shifted to plus 1,600 or better. Then 49ers, Cowboys, Ravens, all their odds have shifted in the wrong direction a little bit there. 49ers, not too bad, plus 250 to plus 300. They are still the favorites to win the NFC. However, the Cowboys tumbling all the way from plus 700 to plus 1,200. Things are not looking good for them, but things are looking good for us because Charlotte Wilder is standing by to join us in hour 2.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield. And it is Tuesday. It is hour number 2, and that means our good friend Charlotte Wilder joining us for a Wilder Wednesday on a Tuesday. She is the co-host of Oddball with me and El Hassan every day but Monday on the DraftKings Network. Charlotte, what's going on, buddy? How we doing?
I'm fantastic. Every time I hear Wednesday on a Tuesday, something clicks in my brain and I'm just ready to rock and roll. So thanks for having me, per usual, everybody. How are you doing? How's the show going?
Going wonderfully well. We had 2 football games to talk about last night, so what can't be good?
Did we ever?
And we're far enough away to where we don't have to actually ask you about the Patriots game first rattle out of the box either, Charlotte. So that's a nice thing off the weekend.
So I would be lying if I said that after that horrific, embarrassing, very, very, very bad game, the first thought I had was, oh, thank God, I don't go on GoJo and Golic until Tuesday. I was like, if this were Sunday, they would have saved this for me, which is very, I take very seriously. And that means so much to my little heart. But oh my God, I'm really, you know what I would like to say though, speaking of bad teams, can I just say something real quick? This is not about the Patriots. Last night watching, I found myself, obviously there are 2 games going on at once. And at the end of the Bills Jags game, where the Bills are just absolutely destroyed, I clicked back from the Bengals Commanders game and it was 40-10. And I found myself, guys, I just watched it for a little while because the Bills were so happy on the sidelines and Josh Allen was just grinning. Steiner, he was so happy. Everybody was so happy. And I felt bad for the Jags, but I was just sitting on my couch by myself, just like smiling. And I was like, isn't that nice? Like, at least we have that,
And, by the way, the Patriots fan among us trying to beat the allegations of rooting for New York sports team, taking great solace in the joy of the Buffalo Bills, New York's only true sports team, they'll tell you, especially among the football contingent, is a hell of a way to go here, Charlotte.
Listen, Mike, I do not appreciate that. I'm sorry that I'm honest enough to come on here and tell you the things that bring me joy. I'm sorry that I'm so secure in my fandom that I can talk about a New York team now and again and not worry about actually being a fan of that team. So I'm sorry for taking a risk for content. Oh my God.
It was nice of you to talk about how happy it made you, but I really took it as deflecting off the not talking about the Patriots' embarrassing loss.
Okay, well, what would you like to know then? What would you like?
Yeah.
Well,
nothing.
I would like to instead talk about, since we were talking about being secure enough to go and say what was really on your heart. Mm-hmm. We had a really interesting debate here around the show yesterday that I think involves around hair insecurity, talking about Sam Darnold and whether or not he was a redhead. And Jessie is the only woman on this show here in front of the microphone with us, and she time and time again reminded me and my dad that there is a different level of discernment that comes with being a woman and being able to understand that hair is a spectrum full of colors and that there's a lot of things accessible. So I just want to ask you flatly, as we watch dominance by Gingers this weekend, you had Andy Dalton coming back, the Red Rifle in Carolina, leading them to their first win of the year, looking very good. And Sam Darnold's been one of the stories of the early season and had another great game for the Vikings this weekend. Do you consider Sam Darnold's victory a victory for the redheaded delegation?
So here's the thing. I know that you talked about that. And Jessie, I appreciate what you said. And I actually, before I came on here, I've had several pictures pulled up of Sam Darnold. And there is, now I see another one that I didn't see before. Now I'm confused. No, he is not a redhead. He has a red beard. That is what is confusing absolutely everybody. Sam Darnold, beard. I mean, you guys should know this. Can't your beard be a different color than your hair? Like Sam Darnold, if you look at his hair, it's sort of like brownish, blondish. And yes, Jessie's right. Hair is a spectrum. You can have different, like I've got some different colors going on here. But I don't think, I can definitively say Sam Darnold is not a win for the redheaded community. It is a win, though, for everybody who hates New York Jets.
I just want to say respectfully, GoJo and Senior, you can suck it, because guess what? You're so wrong, and all the men on Twitter who are siding with you are wrong too. So guess what? You're wrong, all right? Just admit it.
Right now, I'm seeing a 2-2 vote where every vote is weighed equally. And so in this democracy, it is actually undecided. And we're going to have to go to a runoff here, even though the runoff was decided yesterday on one of the most overwhelming lopsided Twitter polls we've ever had.
Yeah.
So here's my thought as I look closer at it. His beard is red. His hair is not. But are you still considered a ginger if you have a red beard?
No, because you could just shave your beard off and then you're not not a ginger.
But it's not shaved. It's not shaved.
No.
If you look at him, you see red hair above the neck. In the head area, you see red hair. And Jessie, he's not shaved. So you see red hair. So when you look at him, you see red hair, albeit on his beard, but it is red hair.
But the ginger, a redhead is someone who unequivocally you look at and you're like, that person has red hair. It shouldn't have to be a debate. And I would say that in this case, the Electoral College favors Jesse and me. So I think actually the popular vote, I'm not too worried about, Mike.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow. All right. Charlotte denying the popular vote's influence in the outcome of the election.
Why vote,
not the take I expected to see today as she subverts democracy. But
that's not the system.
Why vote? Why vote? Why go out and vote then?
Okay.
No, everybody should vote.
By the way, speaking of securing votes, Dad really didn't need you undermining our argument the way that you did right now. I think you thought you were helping, and you really didn't.
No. I knew I was hurting our side, but I have to be truthful.
Thank you, Senior.
It is a red beard, and it is not a red head of hair. But that still doesn't mean I don't think he's not a ginger, because he has, and Jesse can say, what if he shaves all she wants, but he's not. So when you look at him, you see red hair on his face.
Yeah, but he doesn't have red hair on his head. He doesn't have red eyebrows. He's not a redhead. He's not a ginger. Charlotte made a great point. If it is this much up for debate, he's not a ginger. Gingers are, you can see a ginger from a mile away, all right?
You know one when you see one.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell my truth here. We have stayed on this for way too long. Jesse, let's get ready and move this to NFL superlatives here with Charlotte Wilder. What do we got?
All right, who are you going to call, Ghostbusters? No. First call, who should Miami call first after all of their struggles? The Steelers for Russ or Carolina for Bryce Young? What do we think?
Man, this is actually a very interesting one to kind of think about. Miami's the only team that hasn't led a game for more than a second of this season. And we know, obviously, the situation with Tua Tagovailoa, incredibly sad. The situation for their offense, pretty dire, considering the line in front of him as well, also banged up at that game. Dad, I would say this one is very easy. It would be Russell Wilson first and foremost. Bryce Young needs a lot of rewiring under the hood before you're going to get a quarterback there. And while Mike McDaniel is a coach that's certainly capable of that, I don't think during the season, with the other things that are an issue for that Miami Dolphins offense right now, is necessarily the environment I would want to see that play out in.
I'm not calling either one. Bryce, for the reason that you just said, he's already learning his second offense. He would have to go learn a third offense, and he was struggling in the first and second offense he learned. Or to think he'd pick it up that quick and go off success I don't think is viable. And Russ has a bad calf, and he's doesn't seem, now he may be getting better, but they're just going to say he's not and start Justin Fields. But Charlotte, I'm not trading for an injured older quarterback either. I'm not calling either one of these guys.
Yeah, I think it depends what deal they could get for us. Because I'm with you, Gojo. I mean, it's funny because initially I was like, well, clearly, the younger quarterback with a very high ceiling. And then it's like, oh, not in that situation. Like, I think there are a lot of teams that could develop Young while they've got somebody else slinging the ball. But right now, you're right. I actually think that Russ's mindset too, like his corniness, his ability to just be like, all right, let's ride, could actually be very helpful for the Dolphins right now if, as Senior said, if that calf holds up. So I
think it also depends on what, I don't know what the reflection's like for Miami right now in terms of this organization and what they think is still possible for this team that turned over a lot of talent defensively, that offensively is very top heavy and already had some bumps and bruises along the way for the non-Tua parts of this team. And now your franchise quarterback's gone down in a way that really invites doubt about his future overall. And so, Dad, I guess overall for Miami, I don't know what's a realistic expectation for this team anymore, and if mortgaging any more resources on this current season would be a wise use of capital. Like, again, Mike McDaniel and that team are going to try and win games, but if you're that front office, you'd be chasing bad money after more bad money right now in the way that it's gone so far this year.
Yeah. I would not call either one of them. I would live with what I had right now and play the season out.
Yeah, I would agree. I think at this point, you got to wait and see what's going to happen long-term with Tua, who's on IR, so he was going to have to miss at least 4 games. But you got to stay with the status quo right now before you start inviting anyone else into a house that seems a little bit messy right now. Jesse, what do we got for the next superlative?
All right, worst look in week 3. So the Browns celebrating an interception that was called back and then giving up a touchdown drive, or Marlon Humphrey on IG Live as Lamar tells him he shouldn't be on IG Live.
Oh, this one is easy for me. This is Marlon Humphrey getting shut down on IG Live. I mean, interceptions we see, that's the thing now. You get an interception, you all run to the end zone and do whatever choreographed dance you're going to do, whether they didn't see the flag or whatever, so be it. Every team does it on an interception. But for Marlon Humphrey to be talking about, win and talking about this and that, and then to start questioning Lamar basically shutting him down is like an uh-oh look. So, Mike, I would say Marlon Humphrey was a little tougher to look at.
Him getting checked by Lamar Jackson, to me, is perfect theater. I'm with you. I feel for defensive backs, especially in this day and age. I don't know how anyone has the courage to celebrate before looking for the flag, because it seems like officials are inclined to throw it on damn near every passing play right now. It is a testament to the defensive back confidence that those guys are just undeterred. They're going to get a chance to celebrate. If they go and aren't even close to deflecting a pass that falls incomplete, damn best believe they're going to get up and celebrate it like they just won the Super Bowl. I admire their passion. And yeah, this is one of those things I was talking about to someone yesterday, Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that go on IG Live, this to me less so. Like on the plane after the game, I can live with that. It's the guys that do it in the locker room when coaches are talking, when players are in that mode after the game where, hey, you want a little time to yourself after this incredibly hostile situation you were just a part of. That I disagree with. I don't have as much of a problem, but I think this is definitely the tougher look.
No, I actually sort of think it ended up being kind of a good look for the Ravens, because I think that Lamar's reaction was perfect. He wasn't a jerk about it. He didn't like swat the phone away. He was like, listen, yeah, we got the dub and you shouldn't be doing that. And I actually thought that there was something, I was like, oh, that's leadership. I think that that's leadership. So yeah, it might not have been a good look for Marlon Humphreys, but I think it was actually a pretty good look for Lamar and the Ravens. So I think it kind of came out okay in the end, Gojo.
Attitude reflects leadership. Let's get one more quick one in, Jesse.
Yeah, the farthest fall back to earth. So like team maybe not as good as we thought. Bucks, Saints, Chargers, Texans. What do we think?
I think the most telling one was probably the Chargers, Dad, just because I think this team was always going to have a top-end problem, and now Justin Herbert and the reality of that high ankle sprain that's probably not going anywhere, good to reset expectations for that team.
Yeah, I think that because he's going to be out, I think is going to be the biggest back to earth, because you don't know when he's going to be back. Texans, I think, will be fine. Saints, Bucks, I think will all be fine. But just with that injury hanging out there, Charlotte, I don't know.
Yeah, that was sort of a mess in multiple different ways. I think the other team stumbled, but I don't think it was any massive hurdle. I think that the Chargers have some big questions ahead of them, as we say in the biz, Gojo.
Yeah, no questions about Justin Herbert's availability. It sounds like their rookie right tackle, Joe Alt, going to be out for this game against Kansas City this weekend. So the vibes aren't great, as you already had Joey Bosa on the sideline as well. We'll get a view from the trenches on GoJo and Golic next. All right, welcome back to GoJo and Golic. And since we saw the thick six on the Monday Night Football doubleheader last night, it's only right that we bring in some added beef here on the show to help us talk about one of the most glorious moments in sports. Justin Pugh, kind enough to join us now, an 11-year veteran NFL offensive lineman with the Giants and the Cardinals. He's got a Sports Meets Sports Business podcast called Net Worth that we're certainly going to get into. But Justin, and forgive me for not doing the background research, did you ever catch a touchdown in your career at any point as an offensive lineman?
In my career, I have one touchdown, defensive line, senior year, one hand, see a screen, grab it, take it to the house. So I'm still living those, like 20 years later, I think it is now. That's how long it's been since I had that happen. I was a little jealous because Cliff Kingsbury was my offensive coordinator in Arizona. He never threw to me one time. I'm texting him after we get off this call.
And it seems like when one O-lineman scores, it's like a monster score for the O-line room. It's like you all scored.
That play had been in all week. They practiced it 4 times. The O-line dropped it 2 of the 4 times. Everyone was scared to call it in the game. But the celebration had to be like, hey, what's going to be the celebration? That is going to be talked about all week. So it was queued up. I wish it would have been an O-line. Like, I know Quentin Nelson one year did like a keg stand or jumping. Like, you got to do something epic. I know he did a dance. So I don't know how he didn't get the other guys involved. So that's my only thing that I would fix about that touchdown.
I would agree. I do think it needs to be a rule when an offensive lineman catches a touchdown. There needs to be a celebration that involves everybody because you represent more than just yourself when you make it to the end zone. But Justin, lots we want to talk to you about but let's start. You mentioned your old offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, part of a pretty impressive performance last night. And I want your insight because before that game, Cam Taylor-Britt from the Bengals said, hey, it's a nice college offense that you guys got running there. Cute stuff. Cliff Kingsbury, the coordinator. What was your impression of Cliff's offense, and what have you seen from it so far as he's applied it now to Jayden Daniels and this Washington group?
Continuing to keep it simple. Get the ball out quick. Let Jayden Daniels do what he does best. Be on the move, make quick decisions. He has a safety blanket and a guy like a Zach Ertz who's having, a great coming back from an ACL. Terry McLaurin, a deep threat. Obviously, Austin Eckler got a little banged up last night, but Brian Robinson has been running the ball as hard as any running back in the NFL. And Jayden Daniels just naturally has it. I was texting with a buddy that's on the staff there, and he's like, this guy can do it all. He makes the checks. He commands the huddle. I know in the preseason, he made a check and threw a deep ball, and that was like an aha moment for that staff that, hey, we can continue to give him more in and week out. And someone said this when we were in Arizona, when we had Kyler, similar situation. They're like, oh, it's pretty boy football. Well, when you give up 38 points and you're the Bengals, I don't care what the football is. It's doing its job on Monday night.
So going to your time with Kyler Murray in Arizona, they lose to the Lions this last week, but Kyler Murray's been all over, the spectrum as far as great play, and then you hear about a clause in his contract that says he needs to do extra work on his own. Where do you think Kyler Murray is going in his career?
Well, I think if you looked after the Rams game, his odds to win the MVP had jumped up dramatically. Like, he was in the top 10 in the MVP conversation, and that's where Kyler can be. I don't think he has all the pieces around him right now. I still think that defense needs to continue to improve. But if you look at the Arizona Cardinals, I think they are on the precipice of becoming a very, very good football team. You get some stops. You don't put all that pressure on the offense. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. You can see how much of a difference he makes. James Conner, the offensive line, Will Hernandez. I got to give a shout out to the right guard. Will Hernandez has found a resurgence out there in the desert. He was in New York right after I left, and then we played together. I really think the sky is the limit for Kyler. The whole contract and the clause I think that's a thing of the past. He got to a point in his career where he had to decide who he wanted to be, and he's decided he wants to be an MVP caliber type quarterback. But again, you have to go and prove it. It can't just be 1 week here and the next week you're not winning games. Detroit's a good football team, but I expect a lot of good things from Kyler this year.
And certainly part of that situation has been, hey, the situation around Kyler, continues to improve. They bring Marvin Harrison Jr. in there as a bona fide stud at wide receiver to try and help him out there. Blocking for a guy like Kyler, I'd imagine, is a pretty big adventure. We see so many guys like that, JAYDEN as well, in the NFL. What's the biggest thing for an offensive lineman when you've got a quarterback with that kind of ability that you have to keep in mind blocking for a player like that?
So keep in mind, I started my career blocking for Eli Manning. And no offense to Eli, we're not putting when you show his highlights, you're not putting any rushing highlights out there about Eli. So I went from Eli Manning, who you knew exactly where he was going to be in the pocket. The ball was coming out on time every single time. And if you got beat, Eli wasn't taking that hit. He was going to go down. Like if you got beat, you were giving up a sack. And rarely did Eli get sacked because the ball was always coming out. He knew where the pressure was coming from. There's a reason he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer this upcoming year. Shout out to Eli. And Kyler was always going to extend the play, was always going to make that extra throw. If you got beat, he was making that guy miss. And he was going to, he was always making the first guy miss and making a throw down the field. We didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. when I was there. We had this guy, DeAndre Hopkins, and we just threw that thing up to D-Hop. And at times we were playing a little bit of backyard football. We were 8-0. We had a good little run doing that. And then teams started to game us, the Patriots were the team. Belichick really was the one who figured it out and just try to keep Kyler in the pocket. And that's where he had to progress. And he has now, and he's gotten over that hump.
Mentioned Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the Giants now, and in the Hard Knocks offseason, there was actually talk of the management there that should they look for another quarterback, but they had money invested in Daniel Jones. What do you see his future being with the Giants, if there is one?
Yeah, it's a prove-it year. You have that contract. The Giants didn't renegotiate. They didn't extend to lower his cap hit. So he does have a high cap hit this year, which lets you know the Giants have a one-year plan for Daniel. If he plays well enough, he'll be the quarterback of the future. And if he doesn't, he won't be. And that's where I think a lot of people get caught up. There aren't quarterbacks growing on trees out there. Look what's going on in Miami with Tua. Like if your starting quarterback gets injured, there just isn't a guy that's going to come in and just replace that production right away. And I always tell the Giants fans, I'm like, look, we have a quarterback. He can play football at a high level. He had some injuries last year. The offensive line was starting guys straight off the couch that were literally sitting watching Sunday Night Football the week before. Daniel has shown a lot of positives, and I'm also just loving what I'm seeing on film from the offensive line. We mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. They have this dude, Malik Neighbors, who every 50-50 ball needs to go to Malik Neighbors. And then Devin Singletary is running as hard as anybody in the league, just limiting the turnovers and the fumbles. And the Giants, they have Dallas on Thursday night, and it is a good time to play the Cowboys.
You surprised they let Saquon walk out of the door? I know Singletary has run well, but we just saw Saquon have one of the premier performances as a running back, and they're so far through the season on the road in the Superdome.
Yeah, I would have loved for Saquon to stay in New York with the Giants. You can't help but wonder what him and Malik Neighbors with the offensive line would have looked like. I just think that was more than just a contract situation. There was so much emotion that went into it the year prior with the tag. Saquon wasn't happy. So I think that one was just more like, hey, Saquon, we're going to let you see what you're worth on the open market. He went out and found out he's worth more than the Giants were willing to pay. And that's goes back to philosophy of how you want to build a team. And I'm not the general manager of the New York Giants. And he believes building a team through the offensive line, through the trenches, went out and traded for Brian Burns. So again, I think both teams end up winning. The Giants got Singletary. He's playing great. Saquon Barkley, arguably the MVP of the NFL right now. So I think both sides are happy in the situation. The fans lost out, and that's what I feel bad about.
Yeah, definitely did. And it's not like the running back cap hit is a significant hit compared to the other positions. More surprising, Steelers undefeated or Minnesota Vikings undefeated?
Steelers. In that division, I would never in a million years have thought the Steelers would be undefeated. Now, look, Mike Tomlin is an unbelievable coach. The fact that they're 3-0, I think, is a credit to him, how he's handled the whole Justin Fields dilemma. They have arguably the best defensive line in football, but I just thought in that division with the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, even having some quality around them, I did not see the Pittsburgh Steelers winning games. I also didn't see the Minnesota Vikings winning games, but I thought they had some talent. I mean, Aaron Jones, great running back. They had the best receiver in football. They have two premier tackles. Sam Darnold has shown flashes when he was in San Fran of what he could do. I did not think they were going to be on this level, but Steelers are definitely the bigger surprise.
Certainly every year we get an influx of great rookie quarterbacks. We talked about Jayden Daniels in Washington, but just in general, you mentioned being around a young Kyler Murray coming into the league, figuring things out for himself. We saw what happened with Bryce Young in the Carolina Panthers. We're seeing the growing pains that even Caleb Williams is going through right now. What do you think in general is the best approach? Is there a right way to do this with rookies coming into the league, whether it's starting them right away and getting their nose bloodied or sitting them and letting them get a chance to develop?
I think if you ask Brian Billick, who I talked to, I have a Sirius XM show. Brian Billick came on. He said, you throw them to the fire. You find out what they're made of. And then you look at Gerard Mayo and the Patriots and what they're doing. It's like, hey, Jacoby Brissett, you're our starting quarterback. But Drake May, you're going to get 30% of the reps during practice. We're going to get you in there in either blowouts or one way or the other. We're going to get you some live game reps. In my opinion, that is the best way to do it. The Patriots know they're not winning a Super Bowl this year. So why try to, risk throwing Drake May into the fire without an offensive line, without a number one receiver? Caleb Williams is in a better situation. I think you have to play Caleb Williams. He has the receivers. Now, the offensive line, people are talking about that. It will improve. That goes back to, GM philosophy and how you want to build the team. Instead of signing a Keenan Allen, you could have signed a left tackle maybe. But I truly believe in letting these guys progress, not being thrown right into the fire. I was, first round pick. They threw me right out there on Sunday Night Football, and I have DeMarcus Ware lined up across from me. You find out real quick, and I struggled for the first 4 games, and luckily was able to bounce back. But you're really playing with fire because a lot of these young kids don't come from a pro-style offense, and that is a tough adjustment to make getting into the NFL.
No doubt. God, DeMarcus Lawrence to start. God help you and God keep you surviving that to have the career that you did. No surprise there. And now on this side, as you do some of the media stuff here, did I see you're going to every Thursday night football game right now?
Yeah, so playing for 11 years, I would always get booed or eggs thrown when I go to Philadelphia. My old math teacher flipping me the bird when I was out there in Lincoln Financial Field. And this time around, I'm like, hey, I'm not playing so far. I haven't found the right match for a team that I want to go back and play with. So why don't I go see what it's like on the other side of that equation? So I've been going to every Thursday night football game looking for the best fans, the loudest, the proudest. And I started in Kansas City, and they were tremendous. It was coming off of a Super Bowl win. The ceremony was that night. Heaven, now I know what heaven smells like. It's barbecue in the Kansas City Chiefs parking lot. And so now we're doing it for the whole year. We're rolling out to every Thursday night game. We had the Jets last week, and someone said to me, like, in 13 years, that was the best Jets game anyone could have been at. You couldn't have picked a better time to go. And hopefully my Giants can go out there and get us a win here on Thursday. So it's been a fun experience to meet the fans, meet the people that make our game so great.
I hope you're eating the food at each place, the selected food, right?
We always go. So Kansas City was barbecue. Miami, I did all the Cuban pastries and the coffee and the sandwiches. And then in New York, we did Taylor ham sandwiches. If you guys saw Mike Williams, the receiver from the Jets, he signed after eating the sandwich. So I'm like, we got to try this out. And there's this big debate in the Northeast, pork roll versus Taylor ham. I said, just give it to me. I don't care what you call it. As long as I have it, we're good to go. So this week with the Giants, we're going to be doing a pizza place. So we're always getting the food. So it's helped me keep my weight up for the season if a team calls.
There you go. Keeping your weight up now and keeping the mind sharp. We've got about a minute left here, Justin. You've also got net worth with Justin Pugh. What made you interested enough in the finance of the sport to want to do a show about it?
I was a finance major growing up. The last 4 years, I've been interning out in Arizona with a real estate developer. So I've been learning about what life looks like after I'm done playing football. And that all happened when COVID hit. COVID hit and the Cardinals said, hey, Justin, you're a great player. We love you, but you got to take a pay cut. And I'm like, screw you guys. I'm done playing football. And then I realized, like, what do I want to do post-football? And that led me to real estate. That led me to finance and falling back on my degree from Syracuse. The money tells you the story. When Jerry Jones tells you he's all in, but he's spending the least of any owner over the last 4 years, the money's telling me he's not all in. And that I always believe the money will tell the story. And that's something that I think is good to open the eyes to fans. And Saquon's another great situation. The Giants could have paid him, but they chose philosophically that they didn't want to. The money told me that they could have. but philosophy told me they didn't want to. So the money tells a story, and I like to bridge that gap between the fans, the players, and the game, because even the players don't realize that sometimes.
It's so true. Justin, we appreciate the time, man. Everybody check out the podcast. Thanks so much, brother.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Our thanks to Justin Pugh, NFL veteran offensive lineman, for joining us in the last segment, talking a little ball. Charlotte Wilder rejoins the show here on GoJo and Golic. And Charlotte, you and I were texting about this yesterday. There's been a lot of college football news going on that doesn't have anything to do with the stuff on the field. We talked about the Pac-12 Mountain West a little bit earlier in the show. This one I didn't have on the bingo card necessarily. We had all taken time to celebrate Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back, being realized for the great player that he always was, and getting that recognition. He's even in the Heisman House commercials again. But saw the announcement yesterday that now he's suing USC, the Pac-12, and the NCAA, seeking compensation for his name, image, and likeness during his time in the program. He's saying that all three of those entities gained significant popularity and prominence because of his profile as a player that led to TV contracts, merchandise sales, media rights, all these different things. Charlotte, when you first heard this, did you think he's got any real chance with this?
I mean, I think I texted you, he doesn't have a chance in hell, right? But if he does, this is absolutely massive. And one of his attorneys, Evan Selleck, said this is not just about Reggie Bush. This is about setting a precedent. And it sort of blows my mind, guys, because like if he does have a chance, how many tens of thousands of former college players have a chance? Like if you can sue retroactively for NIL money, and I think the Reggie Bush case obviously is such a, you couldn't pick a better one to start with because of what he did do for that program of taking his Heisman away because he took money. And now the exact thing that he was punished for is what so many people are making money off of. And just, the landscape changing completely. But I don't know, Senior GoJo, like, do they have a chance? I guess I don't know enough about the law to know whether this is.
I don't know enough about the law. I don't think they do. And he's not the first. The 1983 North Carolina State National Championship basketball team, players from that team in June sued the NCAA for NIL compensation. So they've done it before Reggie Bush did it. Reggie's a bigger name in doing it. And remember the lawsuit that the NCAA just lost for $2.8 billion that would distribute funds to athletes going back to 2016, 4 years before the lawsuit was filed. So 2016, which obviously doesn't include Reggie Bush or the 83 and North Carolina State basketball player. So, Mike, I don't think they have again, I am not a lawyer. I wouldn't even want to try and play one, but just initial reaction is I don't think they're going to have a chance.
Do you think that he's just doing this to try to get a settlement? Because it's like if this went to trial and he won, it would open the door for, like you said, Charlotte, like tens of thousands. So he's just like, let me just put public pressure here. We'll settle outside of court. I'll sign an NDA. Goodbye.
Well, like, again, like to Dad's point, the pressure's already there. Like the antitrust lawsuits that the NCAA is currently trying to settle, and there are 3 big ones going on right now, would pay for this exact thing, seeking NIL compensation for all these players. So it's a precedent that's already out there, which is why Reggie's doing this, because there's money to be had, but his case is more high profile. And I think the interesting part would be not for tens of thousands, Charlotte, but for the real high profile cases of guys who had so much of their most potent earning in the college years. What would this be? Like, I always hearken back to, I remember Manti Te'o, who was my teammate at Notre Dame, who's now over doing work with the NFL Network. When he was going through his season where he finished runner-up as the Heisman, in Notre Dame's bookstore, Notre Dame is a team that doesn't put jerseys on or names on the back of jerseys, and especially back then, you couldn't sell specific player jerseys in the bookstore. But you always noticed that the good players' jersey numbers just happened to be the ones that were available in the bookstore. But usually it was kind of that, hey, you're not really sure. They keep it purposely ambiguous. Manti's year, they were selling 5 jersey shirts that had flower lays printed on it to acknowledge Manti's background as being from Hawaii. Like, there was nothing. It was masked fully off on that. And so looking at a situation like that, where I don't know if there was something comparable from Reggie Bush's time there, but all that is to say, for players of a certain stature, you can argue, hey, the university did benefit in some ways just as much from you being there as you did from the brands that are going on. And so, Dad, I think that's what makes someone like Reggie Bush's case a little bit more unique, and where he's saying, yeah, if they're handing out money to everyone right now, why not sue and at least take a chance? Because the higher courts have shown you they're going to rule against the NCAA most every chance they get.
And Charlotte, what a door this would open for Reggie in the early 2000s, the North Carolina State basketball players. Think of other showmen who played college football back in the day, a Brian Bosworth, a Deion Sanders. Now, I don't know if they were making money anyway. I don't know that. But still, this would just floodgate would open of former athletes trying to jump onto this.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to me about this is, where does that line get drawn, Mike, right? Like, where are you big enough to have that go your way? Or more interestingly to me, where are you too small to win that case? And that's what I think is so interesting. And I wish I knew more. I wish I'd gone to law school. That's the only time I've ever said that. It's the only time I probably ever will say that. Just to understand, like, what is really, where do the lines get drawn, and where legally can they be drawn? And I'm very interested to see how this goes. And I think that Reggie, he's always been very smart about picking his spots. And I think that this was a pretty smart one to pick, Mike.
I just appreciate that Reggie came back and immediately was like, oh, no, you think I'm just going to be happy here with my returned Heisman and getting to be in a few commercials? No, I'm about to sue your asses. So welcome back to the party, fellas. Reggie Bush has been ready and waiting. You thought you were going to take his Heisman and not have any blowback on this? No, friends. Couple of billboards ain't going to cut it. I'm out here for blood. I respect the hell. Listen, I'm not a guy that's inclined to overly like USC, given my background and that they were one of our rivals, but no one beat the drum harder for Reggie Reggie Bush to get his Heisman back than me. He is the best college football player I've ever seen with my own two eyes. So if Reggie Bush tells you he wants more money because he believes he was worth it, I am inclined to really agree with Reggie Bush. So an interesting wrinkle in a day of news that had a lot of legalese in it involving all the conference movement there, certainly. But Dad, Charlotte, we can transition to something, Jesse, that is a little bit more current right now and that I did want to talk with Charlotte about, because there was an interesting thing that we always see happen when rules come up against high-profile players in high-profile situations and what happens with them. And that could be the case in the WNBA here, Jesse.
Yeah, okay, so the playoffs tipped off on Sunday in the W. Liberty, Sun, Lynx, and Aces got their Game 1 wins. Now, Caitlin Clark's playoff debut didn't exactly go as planned. She struggled. The Suns defense held her to a 4 of 17 shooting night, just 11 points for her. So the first round of the playoffs is a best-of-3 series. So with Game 2, Wednesday night could be the final game of the season for the Fever and Caitlin Clark. Not exactly good for business. Guys, what do you think about the format in general? Like, should that first round be more than a best of 3? What do you think?
Guys, I generally tend to not think so, and I can understand, especially when travel's involved, why the format exists the way it does. But Charlotte, I always think back to that Bills-Chiefs playoff game that changed the overtime rule, because we were mad that we didn't get to see one of the other special football boys throw the football on the time the game it mattered most. And so we went and changed that immediately, and it seems like that could be something that at least gets flirted with because the star power of Caitlin Clark is that massive. And people are going to say, hey, Indiana, this fan base that's, we talked to Tarika Foster-Brasby about it last week. Indiana's basically made every road game a home game because their fans travel so well and are so all-encompassing. That environment not getting a playoff game feels like something that could draw this kind of ire.
Well, I mean, it's that way largely in part because the WNBA didn't have chartered flights. So travel was a real pain in the butt. I mean, it's still not where it should be maybe, but they changed that for Caitlin Clark. So they didn't. They changed it for a bunch of people. But it happened to be the year that she came into the league that started to shift. And so I think that I would be shocked if this didn't change soon, Mike, especially if the Fever do not win tonight and do not get that home game.
And this isn't just for Caitlin Clark, though she is a big part of it. I would do best of 5 because I think all teams should be able to get at least one home game in the playoffs. So I definitely think it should change.
Nope, I would agree, and I think we've got a real potential for that coming out of here. Coming up next, we'll finish up the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third on GoJo and Golic next. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Time to finish off this thing the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you into the rest of the day. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review our show. Leave it a 5-star rating, and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the DraftKings Network. If you miss us live or any of our great guests, and thanks to Jaylon Jones from the Indianapolis Colts, fresh off a win this weekend, and Justin Pugh, NFL veteran offensive tackle, for joining us on the show, as well as our buddy Charlotte Wilder, who you can catch as well on Oddball with Amin El Hassan. Get all that wherever you get your podcast, or right here on YouTube as soon as we get done with our show. Guys, let's get started off with this. It's that time of year. Baseball is a long season with many ups and downs and things you got to do just to keep it interesting. And Charlotte, I feel like you would appreciate this. The Baltimore Orioles made their rookies dressed up in Peter Pan-themed costumes over the weekend. What did you make of some of these get-ups, and who wore it best?
I'm honored that I feel so seen and known, Mike. Thank you. I think Wendy is amazing. I feel like Peter Pan is a special place in my heart as someone who often, I feel like I still am in touch, for better or for worse, with that lost boy never growing up, that essence. So, and my family loves the Orioles. So I think my cousin was very happy to see that. Senior, did you have a favorite?
No, I just wanted to talk about I love that the baseball teams do this. I think it's great. And it's you know what? It's just a little bit of fun. And because we would do stuff like when I was playing to rookies, and I was always amazed, and nothing bad. I mean, I don't mean the hazing, the ridiculous things. I mean, dressing up like a character from Peter Pan, or dressing up in other ways like the baseball rookies do, I think it's a fun thing. For the most part, they all play along with it. We had my rookie year, the vet shaved our heads. And my thought was, hair grows back, okay? And you're in training camp, and this is back when you were in training camp for like 4 or 5 weeks. So your hair is going to grow back. We had a 6th-round O-lineman, by the way, Mike, who refused to get his hair cut. Refused so much that he was going to leave camp. And we were all like, go ahead. And the coaches stopped him, and he was like a 6th or 7th round pick. The coaches stopped him and brought him back, and told the vets, hey, be careful about it. And we're like, it's shaving a head. What's the big deal? Our 1st round pick that year, Ray Childress, held out, but when he came back into camp, we were already back at our facility. They sat him out in the 50-yard line. He let him shave his head. I mean, he played along. So I'm just happy that these rookies in baseball, that they play along, they dress up. It's just kind of a fun thing.
Shout out to the guy that fully committed to the bit and wore heels, too. I would never be able to manage walking in those monstrosities.
I feel like
can't
Captain
even
Hook's
walk
the
in
clear
heels.
winner. Captain Hook was slaying.
Captain
That's
Hook's
a slay.
Captain Hook's a vibe. It's essentially like a tube top and short shorts.
Yeah, that was the spirit of Halloween.
Breathability.
That was the spirit of Halloween, Captain Hook, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. October has a secret as he's getting ready for that run there. So great job by then. Speaking of Halloween costumes, though, we may already have a clear winner for number 1, Jesse.
Oh, my God. I think we found actually your Halloween costume, GoJo. So the Pop-Tart Bowl has collabed with Spirit of Halloween for the Pop-Tart Bowl mascot costume. I mean, it's just beautiful. Look at that. I mean, it's everything you could have imagined. It's gorgeous. GoJo, friend of the program, Nicole Arbach, already got her hands on one. So we can only assume you'll be getting your hands on one shortly.
Well, this was the concerning thing, was seeing Nicole model that costume. Is Nicole and I, obviously, not the same size. I am like twice the size of Nicole Arbach, and so I'm very worried about my ability to comfortably fit in. I'd assume when you're making the Pop-Tart concept, it's a one-size-fits-all deal, and so I don't think, Charlotte, that this is going to be something accessible to my body type.
Don't say that, Mike. It might have a little give to it, a little stretch. I think you can make this work. I also think that Sarah Spain needs one. I was on Pablo Torre Finds Out with her, where she did some investigative research into who was the Pop-Tart. And I also think that she found the Pop-Tart attractive. So I don't know, maybe this is something that we should try to get to her.
That's right. That was a particularly sexually charged episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out when it comes to eating the humanoid
I was like, what's
Pop-Tart.
happening, guys?
You
What's
can
going on?
you could also, this costume, like Nicole's, in the photo, the person has jeans on, but Nicole's got, she's showing some leg in that, so you could make this a sexy Pop-Tart costume if you wanted.
What are we doing?
Man,
what are we doing?
If I busted
What are
out
we
the
doing?
sticks in the
Sexually charging a
Pop-Tart
Pop-Tart
costume and just had like...
Oh, my God. GoJo, yes.
Sexy Pop-Tart, perfect.
I
Seniors,
will say
earmuffs.
this. I have the legs to pull it off. Like, there are not a lot of features on my body that I will flaunt towards the masses, but I got the legs to bust out and show people a little something if I was going to go as... And, I mean, who else but the Mayo guy going out as a horned-up Pop-Tart would make sense? That's on brand as hell.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I will
My
be upset
God.
if you don't do this, Mike.
Please.
Fit into that thing at all costs.
Yeah. You can always take
there-
some scissors to the sides if you need to.
Yeah,
Well,
who among us?
that is important, though, with Halloween costumes, whether you're going trick-or-treating if you're a kid or out to a party, is movability, right? You don't want to be in a costume where you're restricted in movement or restricted. I'm trying to see the face, like you can't see the face. So what's the breathing, right? Like if you're at a party dressed as a Pop-Tart, are you able to drink? Is it just mesh or is there a hole to get a drink to your mouth?
Senior, asking the important questions. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, these are definitely the important questions.
Yeah.
And you guys are talking about a sexed up Pop-Tart. I'm talking about being able to eat and drink when I'm out at a
having
Halloween
like a little
party.
belt of edible ones around the waist so people can come take a bite out of daddy.
Oh, God. Yeah. Do it. You won't.
All right, we're going to be on the phone with
scandalized.
Pop-Tart people here soon to try and make this happen because somebody has got to match my freak, and I have a feeling the Pop-Tarts Bowl can do just that. Speaking of freaks, let's get to the third, though, Jesse, our favorite homegrown freak here, Emerson Latzia.
Yeah, our friend Emerson Latzia has a problem, okay? He's got a problem, but we're all here for him. Take a look.
My name is Emerson Latzia. I'm 40. I'm from Florida, and I root for the Jags. You know, there's an old saying that being a fan doesn't mean you were there from the beginning. It means you will be there until the end. But these Jags may be the end of me.
And the kick is
My name's Emerson, and I'm a Jagsaholic.
Emerson, this is an all-hands meeting.
Is it? Or is it you guys just can't admit that you have a problem? I don't know what team God roots for on Sunday, but I know it's not the Jags. Plenty of teams still make the playoffs after a bad start. Yeah, but not the Jags. Don't cheer for us. The season's already over.
Hello,
like a
darkness,
shower.
my old friend. Yeah, you hate to see it, but you love to see that amazing work by Billy. Thank you, Billy, for making an amazing video. We love you.
You know, Mike, you teed this up with our friend Emerson has a problem, and then Emerson goes, I'm Emerson, I'm 40 and I'm from Florida. And it's like, oh, this is not headed in a good direction.
Oh, I was like, that's the problem, right? I thought that was the problem. He's 40 and he's from Florida.
Oh, sweet Emerson. I was thinking of him last night. It's tough out there. It's tough out, but at least we can laugh with him.
At him?
Oh,
With
we can laugh with him, but we certainly can't cry with him. I mean,
No.
0-3 for the first time since 2021 when Urban Meyer was the coach. I mean, I don't think anything more has to be said.
At least no one's kicked any of the kickers yet.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's true.
You know, you got to look on the bright side of these things.
Yeah,
Are they the
silver lining.
modern day Jets? Are they the modern day Jets?
They could be.
I'm
This
not
could be
convinced
it.
the Jets aren't still the Jets, so I need to see a little
I
more.
was gonna say, let's not totally absolve the Jets that, although this is going to make it a whole lot easier to just ship the Jacksonville Jaguars to London, where the NFL really wants them. I still maintain this, and upon that rock, I will continue to build my church. We hope you continue to build your church with us. If you want to, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and check us out here live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Thank you to Charlotte Wilder. Thank you to you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.